Hey, good morning, everybody. We're in chapter 8, the whole chapter 8 of John. And this chapter begins with a really dramatic episode. The first episode is where Jesus' challengers bring to him a woman who's been caught in the act of adultery. And of course, according to the letter of the law, this was punishable by stoning, by death. And Jesus, though, notes the hypocrisy of her accusers, and that they themselves are guilty of breaking the law and are therefore subject to the same sort of penalty. And so Jesus catches them. He disarms their attempted trap of him. And he treats this woman with amazing mercy. And then he also says to her as she's leaving, he says, "Now, go and change your ways. Go and sin no more." And we believe that this was an incredible act of compassion and hopefully a life-changing event for this particular woman. Now, it's interesting because this particular account is in several of the ancient Greek manuscripts, different ones. It's located in different places in the Gospel of John. Even in different parts of the New Testament. Scholars believe that it is definitely a true story, but that John probably didn't write it. Your Bible most likely has a note about this someplace around this section. Instead, John's narrative that continued from chapter 7, where it says that Jesus is attending the end of the festival of the Feast of Booths, picks up in verse 12. And so on this occasion, Jesus is going to use the end of this festival as a real teaching moment. And so he begins in chapter 8, verse 12 with these words. He says, "Jesus spoke to the people once more and said, 'I am the light of the world. If you follow me, you won't have to walk in darkness because you'll have the light that leads to life.'" So on the first evening of the Festival of Booths, the religious leaders, those directing this celebration, would light 4 lampstands, and they would remain lit throughout the whole 7, even into the 8th day. And on the last day, when they were extinguished, Jesus is telling them that, these lights are being extinguished, but you don't really need them anymore because I am here now. I am the light of the world. And please understand that they knew exactly what he was saying when he said he's the light of the world. They understood it clearly. They understood that by using that word, I am, that he was claiming that he was the I am revealed to Moses at the burning bush. He is God himself. And he is the light of the world. He is the light who the prophets had pointed to, like the prophet Isaiah. He is God in the flesh. In fact, he's the glory of the temple. And these claims were so provocative that they set up a huge argument back and forth. And in fact, with the Pharisees, and it lasts the rest of the chapter. And of course, the Pharisees were going to reject him because they were the stakeholders, you might say. They had so much invested in the economics of the temple. So they resisted. And besides, they said, "We're the children of Abraham. We know the truth. We should be telling you. Who are you? How can you claim to know Abraham?" Listen to what Jesus said to them. He says, the people said to Jesus, "You aren't even 50 years old. How can you say that you've seen Abraham?" And Jesus answered, "I tell you the truth. Before Abraham was born, I am." And at that point, they picked up stones to throw at him. But Jesus was hidden from them and left the temple. Now, all that were there were not Pharisees. We find out that there were others that were asking actually legitimately good questions. And we find out that they believed. In verse 30, it says, then many who heard him say these things believed in him. Eventually, of course, we know many more would come to believe in him, especially after the crowning event the crowning event of his death and resurrection would prove his claim. In John 8:28, Jesus said these words. He says, "When you have lifted up the Son of Man on the cross, then you will understand that I am he." Wow, this whole chapter is loaded, but just understand that Jesus is the light of the world. He is the one who brought light into the world in creation. He is the light who shows so clearly the darkness all around the world in this world that we live in. And as John said in chapter 1, he is the light that shines in the darkness, and the darkness will never overcome it. And he gives us this life-altering invitation in verse 12. Just to repeat it again, he says, "If you follow me, you won't have to walk in darkness, because you'll have the light that leads to life." So keep on trusting and following Jesus, living in the light. Have an amazing day.
If these devotional videos are helpful to you, subscribe to our channel and click the notification button so you know when we post a new video. And of course, please share them with others.